Hello and welcome to Insight. I'm Kusum Wijetilleke. My guest today is Ajay Vir Singh, the founder of Colombo Fashion Week and the Ceylon Literary Festival. Ajay, thank you very much for being on Insight. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So we're just coming off the heels of the Ceylon Literary and Arts Festival. And before we discuss that and your role in it, I want to just have a chat with you about what brought you to fashion. And of course, being from India, what brought you to Sri Lanka. So shall we start by how you managed to get imported into
Yeah,
our island?
I wish I could say I swam across the Park Strait, but that didn't happen. So I came as an expat for an American ad company years ago,
Okay.
28 years ago.
Okay.
But fashion design was, I think, always part of me. So, I think it was something that you're born with, right? So, as I came here, while I was working in advertising, I realized that's like 95, 96, 97. I realized that there was a bit of a gap in the fashion industry, so to say. Design was flourishing, but fashion was not really that much there. So I thought, okay, while I'm doing this, I have time. Why don't I explore and see if I could create some sort of a platform? That's how Colombo Fashion Week came into being.
Right.
2002, we started working on it. 2003, we launched it. And yeah, now it's 21 years.
You made interesting distinction there between fashion and design. Can you expand on that?
So yeah, so design is a much wider principle. So you have interior design, you have photography,
Right.
film, architecture,
Right.
different forms of design. But fashion per se was not really. So there was apparel, yeah, textile was there, right? But like when I say design, fashion means the active designers creating fashion lines and having retail stores and selling actively. That whole
Right.
thing was missing. So you had one or two wedding designers. I remember Yolande was the first one I came
Okay.
across, and there were few who would do weddings pretty
Right.
much. So there was a huge gap. So there was no fashion curriculums at the time, no fashion retail. Odale was there, but Odale is more like like a stock kind of a retail, not
Right.
really at that
Fashion
time.
at that time.
Yeah. So yeah.
Could you tell us? I mean, you said you started around 2002, 2003, the first fashion week.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, that's 20 years, 20 plus years.
21 years.
How's the fashion industry in Sri Lanka sort of evolved in your sense over this period? You've been front row to it, essentially.
Yeah, it's pretty much, like I said, first 5 years were dark, pretty much dark period. Nothing was happening. So we're trying to
Right.
figure out when people idea that a next generation or the young generation needs to have a bit of a desire to take up a certain profession or follow a certain line. That's when it starts moving. So otherwise, if everyone wants to be doctor, lawyers, and normal one, the fashion industry won't grow. Apparel industry was there. They were manufacturing, and it's very straightforward. So there were young kids not wanting to be in fashion. So one of the impact of Fashion Week as a platform was that when it was being showcased and amazing designers were being shown, that is when their desire built up in them to say, "Hey, I think I can be one of those guys," right? So then I had parents of kids coming and asking me, "You think our kids can become designers because they want to be fashion designers?" So I said, "Yeah," but then the next question would be, "But where can we study? We can't send them. We can't all send them out, right?" So then you'll see little. So when there was a desire for a young person to go into fashion, the first thing is, can I study it? That's when fashion schools started coming, right? So when after out of schools, when the graduates came and started showing at Colombo Fashion Week, now there were consumers saying, "Hey, we want to buy this." So then the fashion retail started. So then they started retailing. Then we brought in craft in. How can we use craft? So now, 20 years hence, Colombo Fashion Week has created the entire fashion ecosystem from schools, from retail, from education to retail, platform, media, right? And I think I would say safely, I can say over 80% of designers you see in Sri Lanka today are the product of Colombo Fashion Week design development system. So you take Colombo Fashion Week out, you pretty may not have a fashion design industry. So that's the role it has played as a platform. It was carefully nurtured and created and developed from that perspective as well.
Right. How do you see? I mean, I assume that to be in fashion, you need a fair amount of exposure to fashion around the world. I mean, it's very difficult when you have only one set culture and one set outlook. How have you seen that Sri Lankans have expanded their horizons into? I mean, how have they gone about getting that exposure? Does it have to be someone that comes from abroad, or is there Sri Lankan organic designers that have found a new vision?
Yeah, and that's a great question. It's an excellent question because you realize a lot of times that the only thing lacking as of now, after all these years, the design is coming out. There's a unique identity being formed, but what's still missing is the exposure, right? And we're trying very hard. From last year, or the 20th year, we started creating collaborations internationally. So we created 4 collaborations. 3 in India, sorry, 5, 3 in India, 1 in Dubai, which we're about to do, and 1 in Singapore. So we're doing an exchange program where Sri Lankan designer showcases there and they showcase here. So now we have moved to the point that so most of the Sri Lankan designers are doing well in Sri Lanka, right? Or pretty much, I would say, big ones are doing well, others are catching up. But I think for them to go into the international space, they need to have exposure. So now these collaborations have started. Last year, we sent 4 designers overseas to showcase there, have retail pop up, so that they feel that how international audience buys them. So what you said is we are just about moving into that phase of exposing them out. So they see how the world is moving in that